introduction. So let me introduce myself first and put a bit of context around who BlackRock are for those who haven't heard of us. And then really what I was going to do is spend the next 20 minutes or so, from your face, hello, talking a little bit about our approach to sales enablement. I think it's such a fantastic and fascinating field, and it's kind of grown from this topic of discussion into a discipline, into really a strategic function within a lot of firms. Certainly we're still seeing lots of different foundational groups that have formed sales enablement, whether it's marketing, myself from a sales background, others from a tech background. And so I think it's still fascinating to hear perspectives from other groups and hear how they've tackled sales enablement. So as I said, my background is sales. I actually started my career working in private banking. I actually sold to wealth individuals a range of investment products and specialised in risk analytics. I then started working more on the sales strategy side. So the first 5 years of my life at BlackRock, I ran sales strategy for our European teams and was responsible for figuring out how we raise money from our clients. We raised about 100 billion across Europe in those 5 years, and so it was successful. But towards the end of that time, I started thinking more and more about how do we do this at scale and increasingly in a simple manner, given the complexity of the clients we dealt with and the complexity of the products that we sold. So 3 years ago, we started the Sales Enablement Group at BlackRock. We started in the US, had a highly successful program there, and brought it over to Europe about 18 months later. We now stand at around 200 people in the group, and it kind of really is central to how we go to market. So a little bit about BlackRock. So for those that don't know, we're an investor. We run money on behalf of many large organizations, individuals around the world. Our mission is fairly simple. It's to create a better financial future for our clients. And we're trusted with around 7 trillion of assets in order to do that. So it's a significant statement of trust, but it's a significant responsibility on behalf of our clients to make sure that we live up to that goal. Clearly, our sales teams, the ability of them to purvey this mission to clients is absolutely critical. When it comes to our product ranges, we cover every asset class, every type of investment product you can imagine. Our clients span private banks, pension groups, insurers, and individuals, charities, foundations. And so it really is kind of, the marketing cliche from the fireman on the street through to kind of the largest institution. In order to be successful, I think what's critical to our sales teams is to take that proposition to market in a really simple and compelling way. There is no way that a salesperson can learn about every one of our products, could know all the nuances of our clients and all the nuances of our market. And so as a sales enablement function, we spend a lot of our time just thinking about how do we simplify things, how do we make the process simple, how do we make our content accessible, how do we make the technology simple to navigate and use so that people can get to market in the shortest time as possible. When it comes to sales enablement, these bullet points are, I imagine, similar to everybody else's goals and objectives around removing friction from the sales process, empowering richer conversations with clients, and obviously driving commercial impact. Put more simply, it's about giving our salespeople time back to spend with clients. And it's about making sure that time with clients is spent on the most effective conversation at the most effective time. So how do we do it? Well, as I said, we work at a kind of a big place, and lucky enough to work with some very smart people. I definitely am very rarely, if ever, the smartest person in the room. I'm very comfortable with that. And so I like to think my value add is just that simplicity, that bringing that complexity right down. And so a couple of comments made from the speakers earlier, there's lots of nuance out there. And in a company as large as ours, that nuance can often be interpreted as, hey, we need a different process. We need a different way of going to market. We need different materials. Our clients are different. Their needs are different. The process is different. We can't possibly follow something as simple as this. I kind of call bullshit on that. I think kind of sales is relatively straightforward, and we go as far as venturing that there's 4 simple steps to it. And on the screen, I'll read them out. You spend your time planning, thinking about your coverage. You spend your time prepping for an engagement, whether it's on the phone, whether it's writing an email, whether it's speaking to someone face to face. Hopefully you execute, and clearly you want the right skills and the competencies in order to do that well. And any salesperson worth their salt will be following up, whether that's them themselves, with the client, or internally to make the machine move towards the goal they aspire to. And actually, there's a beautiful simplicity to this. I mean, I'd challenge any salesperson to say they don't have a better outcome if they walk into a meeting prepared. I challenge any salesperson to say that they don't have a better response when they follow up in a timely manner. And so I think some of this kind of simplicity really helped break down the barriers internally and forced our different groups to kind of come to the table. Obviously, in order to deliver against this, as sales enablement practitioners, we try and combine data, insight, tech, content, training, another one I probably haven't put on the slide, in a semblance, in a sensible way that helps a salesperson execute across these 4 points of the sales process. So given that it's so simple, why is adoption and buy-in so hard to generate? And it's a question we ask ourselves pretty consistently in order to make sure that we address it. So I've got a really dry throat. I've got a cold, so I'm going to have a sip of water. So you could argue that salespeople are skeptical. They're kind of running around, they're sophisticated people, they know their client, they know their product, or they possibly need another model, another template to follow in order to achieve what they set out to achieve with their clients. You can be more generous and just say they're busy, and actually between learning about the product and learning about their client and trying to figure out how to plan and prep, I just haven't got time for something new to be done. But I'd argue the kind of secret to success, and certainly what we found at BlackRock and what I want to share today, is that so much of this comes down to driving the culture of sales excellence and providing our sales teams with the rationale, the why, that it's why they should buy into this new process or new way of doing something over what they've always done. So I'll spend a couple of minutes just talking about kind of 5 things that have really kind of resonated with us and helped us to shape that why and to drive that culture of excellence. And I've got a couple of examples to kind of share and bring it to life. Again, they're super simple, they're not sophisticated, and that's by design. The idea here is to kind of incrementally move our salespeople forward at every opportunity, give them the ability to pick stuff up on their own. We don't want to get hundreds of our people into a room periodically, take them away from clients. Our foundational objective around giving them more time back does not mean pulling away from teams, their clients when we want to train them. So it starts off with knowing your audience. It sounds simple, and that was kind of the dinosaur depiction here. Even within the sales function, getting crystal clear on who you're solving for. Is it the salespeople? Is it their sales management? Is it kind of senior management, COO teams? Or is it the plethora of partners that we have to satisfy as well, whether it's marketing, whether it's product, whether it's ops, whether it's compliance, financial services? I've seen, unfortunately, too often solutions brought to bear where the requirements have been defined for the salespeople, but really the solution is being delivered for somebody else. Most typically sales management, or unfortunately kind of the COO teams or that compliance partner in the room. And this brings us on to kind of the second and third points. If you know your audience, then you can articulate that why. You can build the case that helps demonstrate to the salesperson why it's the best thing they could possibly do. There's a really famous TED video, I'm sure many of you have seen it, with Simon Sinek. He really eloquently talks about the power of why and how that helps CEOs position brands. He talks about why over the what and the how. He actually used it to demonstrate or to bring to life driving adoption for new technologies. I forgot the name of the curve now, I'm sure someone else will remember it. But anyway, the point is that you've got these different groups of adopters as a new concept comes to market. And if you want to jump that critical chasm from early innovators to early adopters, you have to get past a tipping point of around 15-18% of pickup before it becomes more mainstream and then kind of goes through the rest of the audience. And that's really critical here. Further, he ventures that actually, if you want that adoption to take place and that chasm to be jumped, rather than just articulating, hey, this is what you have available to you, rather than just talking about how to use it and what you'll get from it, you have to sell the why. And for our sales teams, we ask the question, why wouldn't you want to be the first person that your client picks up the phone to before they've been placed a trade? Why wouldn't you want to be the salesperson that the rest of the team look up to and think, God, I wish I could emulate them and their success? So you start painting that picture, you start creating this culture of sales excellence, you start embedding a culture of desire that actually I want to recognize not just as a great salesperson, but as a purveyor of sales excellence and as someone that others aspire to be. And that's really kind of picked up at BlackRock and kind of, I think, given us that ability to jump the chasm and make this more mainstream. A partner to the why is the outcome. And again, it sounds kind of super simple, it's designed to be, but really determining why we would do any of the stuff we're being asked to do. Mark made a couple of great points around, there's no shortage of suggestions for leads, or there's no shortage of suggestions and requests for, tweaking a widget in the CRM, or, asking for new content. But actually, whenever we're asked to do anything, and we act as almost defenders of the sales team in this respect, we will challenge, who's this for? Who's the audience? Why would they follow this? What's the outcome they're focused on? Which brings on to that fourth point, and who's accountable for the success? I think all too often, we found with not just our partner groups, with marketing, with technology, with training, that success was the point where the email is sent. We create a new campaign, we send it out to 100,000 clients, great, success, move on to the next one. We do some training, we deliver the training, great, success, move on to the next training. What we're uber focused on at BlackRock is how do we have accountability for that training or for that email? What does success look like? Let's move beyond open rates. Let's turn into conversion cycles or kind of shortening the sales cycle. If it's training, how can we demonstrate those principles were not only taught but actually used and were actually effective in the marketplace? Which brings on to being credible. I think too often in sales enablement settings, it's being perceived as something that really benefits others. And again, use that example from marketing or from product. Hey, we've got some leads for you. They're marketing leads or now they're sales leads from marketing, but actually, where's that credibility that kind of really justifies why that lead is valuable or why that lead should be followed up? We actually went a step further at BlackRock and created a sales enablement strategist group. And I fully appreciate we're lucky due to our size, we're able to do this. But this group we described as our secret sauce. Our sales enablement strategists act as the voice of the salesperson. They are held to the same levels of account as the sales team. The success of the sales team commercially determines the success of the sales enablement strategists. They act as defenders of the sales team, and so they hold to account the marketeers, the product managers, the other groups who come at the sales team with all the ideas and kind of potentially distractions. But importantly, because they know the client and they know the sales process, they act as ambassadors back into those partner groups. They have the time, they have the expertise, and they have the knowledge to really help craft all the kind of the sales enablement activities outside of the sales enablement group and filter them before they're used with the team. So I'll bring a couple of examples, and kind of these are semi-flippant, they're a little bit fun. And the idea again was not to drown our teams with complexity and new models, but to make it tangible, to focus on the why, the outcome, and make it accessible. So the first of these, back to our point around preparation. I mean, Joe Wicks, the body coach, he's got a fantastic phrase around, do you prep like a boss? Clearly referring to your preparation of food and your mental state for exercise, but holds just as true for our sales teams. When we think about our sales group, we're gifted with some fantastically capable salespeople. And so what we focused on actually is not necessarily just improving the best, but helping the rest of that curve understand what makes them the best. And when it comes to prep, it was simple stuff. It was knowing your clients' holdings with BlackRock. It was knowing what the competitors were up to, how they're performing, and it was knowing what the market's doing. There shouldn't be a salesperson at BlackRock who ever thinks about picking up the phone to a client or going to see them without knowing those three things. It takes 30 seconds, a minute to look at this in the CRM system. Clearly what this kind of this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, is all the work that went into making sure this data is accurate, that it's available against the right clients. We've had a huge effort around client data cleanup. You referenced kind of onboarding of new client contacts from additional CRM systems through acquisition. We've been through all of that. But each time back to our mantra of, keep it simple. Why are we doing this? Who's accountable for it? What does it drive? And so one of our principles when it came to data and data acquisition was really understanding, hey, how does this contribute to a single view of the client? How does it contribute to a single view of account planning? And again, those simple mantras are really focused outcomes. We talk about saving our sales team's time. One of the most critical elements they ask us to focus on is, kill the admin, save me time, make my life easier. And so we had a bit of fun around do you have time in the day? On the flight, can you catch another episode of The Crown, or are you there doing all the admin to chase the day? And so for those of you who heard of Hey Dan, I'm not sure if any users here, but a fantastic service that enables our sales teams to dictate sales meeting notes or to photograph business cards, even to send off Excel sheets. It's processed via a team in the Philippines, saving our teams countless hours in terms of writing up notes. And most importantly, ensuring that we're collecting that data in a very consistent and secure way. We have this fantastic universe of data in terms of our client interactions, meeting notes, activity notes. Most of it sat, unfortunately, in Excel sheets, in notebooks, back of drawers, and so just unmindable and unusable. And so we're really focusing on actually a simple way of capturing it. We've opened up a whole plethora of value from that actual data itself. Another example, profiling of clients. Very similar concept. I mean, there's so much fantastic information that our sales teams hear and come across. And again, it's sat in the notebooks, it's sat in the kind of back of drawers. And so designing a simple way of capturing client profile information that was accessible on their iPads, on their phones. Very simple concepts paid absolute dividends in understanding not only what products have been spoken about, what campaigns have been effective, but the context around that. And finally, subscription management. Again, nothing groundbreaking here. It's that pure simplicity, letting sales teams understand the rationale and the outcome of doing this. Not only are we getting that great insight into understanding what our clients are engaged about and being able to communicate to them on those topics, the value to the salesperson and that crucial context was save yourself time, drop it in here, and never have to send an email again to your clients yourself. This one is probably the one I'm most proud of. Owning sales narrative. So no one better than Mr. West in owning your own narrative. What this really relates to is pipeline management. Certainly at BlackRock, and I'm seeing this at other sales organizations as well, sales teams love to talk about their results. They love to talk about their wins. They love to highlight and demonstrate how successful they are. But pipeline is something that is badly managed, badly maintained. It's kind of seen as typically something that is for management. They get beaten up by it. They get how to account for it. It's got more downside than upside, because what happens if I put something in my pipeline, it falls away. I don't want to share my insight. I don't want to share my knowledge of my clients and what they want from us. And so we thought long and hard, how do we position this for the sales team? How do we make them kind of be ambassadors of good pipeline practice? We want to focus on actually, what is your sales narrative? And when you're walking into a one-to-one with your manager, when you're running or taking in a team meeting, or even when you're looking to leverage the firm to move towards fruition for a deal, then what better way to do that than to demonstrate your competence in managing your book of business? We actually developed these really simple kind of guides and practices so that when a salesperson walks into the room with their manager, rather than waiting to be asked, hey, how is your pipeline, what's going on, they're being proactive and they're ready to talk to talk to their manager about where their high conviction is. They're willing to talk about the health of their pipeline in regards to early ideation, early prospects, and kind of later stage in-flight opportunities. They're able to articulate where risk presents itself and where that risk might be contained in other client opportunities or other client existing holdings. They're able to articulate where they're spending their time, which clients they're speaking to and why they're speaking to them, and as importantly, why they're not speaking to some clients as well. This has been kind of really revolutionary in kind of giving our salespeople the confidence and this entrepreneurial spirit in order to position themselves in their book, either their managers or with more senior folks at the firm. It's also saved them huge amounts of time, by not having to constantly update the matrix of managers that they work with, not having to update for different steercos and excos and different other committees that exist, but actually just being able to point to a single source of truth that is the pipeline. And the work we've done, and to your point around creating single versions of taxonomy and glossaries, single sources of truth for each of those data points, we've just taken a huge amount of noise out of the business. And again, just simplified what was historically kind of a very complex and convoluted process, inconsistent and unclear. So what are the results of all this? So they were just three relatively straightforward and simple examples, nothing too complex. We have done some fantastically smart programs around lead generation and operating in a financial services environment. We operate in a hugely rich data environment, and We have whole swathes of teams of data scientists who cut through that data and turn it into insight and turn it into action. But I think those three examples were meant to be demonstrative of the fact that actually simple is best, keeping a really clear mantra of understanding who the audience is, why it's important to do it, what the outcomes are you're focusing on, and having accountability for the part of those really does win through. We actually also measure our sales enablement effectiveness. We actually plot all of our users, our sales teams, onto a curve. We created these 4 personas, spanning on the left from kind of non-users, no explanation needed, right way through to those who are reluctant users of the content, of the material, of the the technology. A reluctant user is really described as someone who, on a Friday afternoon, will come in, they'll bang in their activities, their pipeline. They might send a couple of emails out. They might use a bit of content when they really have to, but they really are doing it for somebody else. Our bars of efficiency are those who you can see from the patterns of their use, what they're using, how they're using it, the results they're getting. They're saving themselves time. They're being smarter about how they use resources available to them. And then at the far end on the right, the smart integrators, those people who are actually better in front of clients now. They have shorter sales cycles. They have higher conversion ratios. They have more satisfied clients. They have more retained assets. It really is kind of quite illustrative to see where we started from. And I've sort of anonymized it, but essentially this was the curve where we were 18 months ago. A lot of people in this kind of non-user, reluctant user base, through to now when we've got, really the opposite story. 65% of all of our users fall into kind of the bioefficiency smart integrator pool. There's always a bit of a kink, actually, not shown on the curve, but a bit of a kink in non-users where you've got new starters. And one of our key focuses is actually how do you get those new starters up the curve as quickly as possible. But it's been fantastic to see and a really fantastic journey to take the sales teams on. I've whizzed through that, and so I've got plenty of time for questions, but happy to take them, Johnny.
From day one until the first close deal, or how do you measure that?
That's a good question. Actually, we're still developing a lot of the onboarding stuff. I mean, this is kind of most recent areas of focus. And we've got a long way to go. I mean, onboarding was, I'm rather embarrassed to say, pretty bad. It was like, copy the guy next to you. Figure out which systems they use, figure which content they use, and maybe you can go and shadow them for a day or two and, kind of good luck. I'd love any ideas you have, but certainly, we now have a much clearer idea of sales personas. And so one of the things we've developed over the last couple of months is much greater definitions of what role a person plays, both internally at the firm. Are you a salesperson, internal, external? Are you sales support? Are you, different definitions? And then the role against the client. And I think one of the things that's really helped us is that rather than having just coverage at an organization level, you cover Credit Suisse, you cover UBS. We've gone 2 or 3 layers beyond that. So functional coverage that covers certain types of banker or certain types of trader within those organizations, which has helped us hire better because we actually know what skill sets and the competencies we require, as well as actually where their connections might be that we can leverage as we hire them. But equally, it means that we can train them better. We understand what they need access to internally, in terms of skill gaps, competency gaps, as well as data and technology as well. Hey, Boris.
You touched on the concept of why. So how do you transport your why to your salespeople? Do you embed it in sort of training, or is it already part of onboarding? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think one of the most impactful things we did in transferring that why was to make the sales teams feel part of it and therefore accountable for the success. And so whenever we launch any new, whether it be a feature or program or process, we have almost like a pretty standard template we'll run through, which will force us to actually articulate what that why is in the first place, and then actually establish a sales partner who is the delivery partner. And so it's very rare that we'll have a sales enablement strategist stand on the stage and talk about an initiative. It will come from the sales team. And we pick these ambassadors or these supporters very carefully. Typically looking for a VP or director, looking for someone who is seen as a top seller, people who naturally are drawing kind of an audience who are looked up to and are seen as someone to aspire to replicate the success of. And I think that's gone a huge way. I mean, we recently launched an updated CRM system in our US to our US teams, and we had 2 or 3 salespeople who were kind of pilot users, had been very involved in inputting in terms of requirements, had really shaped the development of it. We actually called them co-creators, and actually having them stand up and present this, I've no doubt has gone a long way to securing the buy-in that we wouldn't have necessarily got if it was a sales enablement person or marketeer trying to put that message across.
I got a random question. Does your charter, kind of given the industry that you're in, there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of contracts and kind of stuff. Do you see your charter as kind of reaching out and touching those aspects that also affect the efficiency of the selling motion? So if compliance can improve or is affecting or slowing down deals, is that something that you bring to them? Is that a part of your charter as well?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we would certainly, in that role as like defender of the sales process in a way, step into that. And so, we've been fortunate enough to instill a real sense of discipline. So that actually, whether you're in compliance or one of the other support functions, you really can't go to our sales teams and get them to follow a new process unless it's done through sales enablement. And that might mean literally through the technology, the CRM, or it might mean through the training mechanisms and the communication channels. And so a good example is, going into all the details, like MiFID II, like a huge change for the financial services businesses across or industry across Europe. It made for higher requirements to prove suitability of the product being sold, to demonstrate you've shared certain cost disclosures. And so, when this first came about, you had a bunch of lawyers and compliance people sat in a room, determining all the kind of the stages that a salesperson had to prove that they had followed in order to comply with the new regulation. When they first came with that, it's like, right, here are the questions you can now ask every client, dump it in the CRM system, off you go. And actually, we're able to work with them and be like, no, half this information we already know, right? It's captured in the profiling, or it's captured in the client record. Like, let's not ask this again. And so every opportunity we have, we will take to make sure that we're not corrupting the sales process, that we're leveraging data we already have, and we're really pushing back to defend kind of their time.
Are you using a separate sales enablement system or compared to your CRM, or are you feeding all that information through your CRM?
No, so all through our CRM. It's in-house built, which is both blessing and a curse. It gives us full autonomy on the direction it takes, but equally, we have 20 developers versus Salesforce's 6,000. So it's definitely it's not necessarily as smooth and all-encompassing, but it is ours, and we link that to our other investment proprietary systems, which gives a real edge, we feel. But no, we actually are very, very firm on kind of one source of truth. One of the kind of first things we heard from our sales teams was that when we were first starting out, they had a litany of different systems to go to, one for content, one for pipeline management, one for getting compliance sign-off, and it was just, it was a nightmare. Very quickly, as well as having different systems, you'd have different versions of content. You wouldn't know if it's complied for your region, blah, blah, blah. And so, we actually had quite a fraught session where everyone could come to us and say, this is what the sales teams need, this is what we use. And up on whiteboards, crossing them out, we actually killed emails going out to the sales team, which again, won us no friends initially from some of our partners, but was fantastic in enabling our sales leaders to drive a really disciplined effort with the team, and now pays dividends. Do you want to answer these, or are we at time?
No, I think we're at time.
Cool.